in the bent wing bird. That, ladies and gentlemen, is the United States Navy and Marine Corps' F4U Corsair. Some of you will remember this very, very fun television show theme. Yes, indeed, back in the late 1960s, Robert Conrad starred in a show chronicling the exploits of the Black Sheep Squadron, United States Marine Corps Corsair Squadron, in the Pacific Theater of Operations of World War II. The Black Sheep Squadron were thought of as misfits in those days, but in point of fact, they were incredibly skilled pilots, inflicting incredible damage against the Japanese. The F4U Corsair, designed by the Vought Aircraft Corporation, was known as the bent wing bird. It's powered by a 2,000 horsepower Pratt & Whitney double Wasp 18-cylinder radial engine, giving it a top speed of somewhere around 420 miles per hour up at 20,000 feet. It was designed by Vought as a carrier-based aircraft. And when the Super Hornet was up in the air a little while ago, you might recall that Coco and I were talking about how beefy the landing gear on naval carrier aircraft have to be. Well, it presented with this particular aircraft some significant difficulties because the F4U Corsair's 2,000 horsepower engine had to swing a very, very large propeller. As a matter of fact, the propeller diameter is 13 feet in diameter. And in order for that propeller to clear the deck on landing on carriers, they had to have a very long landing gear. Problem is, the longer the gear, the less strong it is. So developers and designers at Vought said, here's what we're going to do. We're going to bend the wing down as it comes off the fuselage at 90 degrees. That will allow us, coming around 90 degrees from the fuselage at that point, then we'll extend the gear from that lowest point and then bend the wing back up. And that made it possible to land it on the deck of a carrier. And hence the name, the bent wing bird, for its inverted gauge museum up there where they have so many vintage aircraft flying, and Dan is doing a great job flying it today. The Japanese also called this airplane the Whistling Death. When it was used as a low-level attack aircraft, it would oftentimes be responsible for bombing Japanese positions on some of those Pacific islands, or napalming. It would come in very, very fast, and there would be a very distinct whistling sound coming from the aircraft. 18 cylinders on this engine, 2 rows of 9 cylinders, as Dan rolls the airplane over and keeps it just in a beautiful position. Over 12,570 of these airplanes were built, with the last one coming off the production line in 1953 and being delivered to the French Air Force. Even though this was primarily used during World War II, the F4U Corsair actually saw action during the Korean conflict. And the only Allied ace of the Korean War who didn't fly the Air Force's F-86 Sabre jet actually flew the F4U Corsair, scoring 5 aerial victories against Russian-built North Korean MiG jet aircraft. Beautiful pass. Now, Vought was not the only producer of the F4U Corsair. So many were needed that production was also turned over under license to the Goodyear Tire and Rubber Company, and also as the FG1 Corsair, and also the Brewster Aircraft Company. Coming in from the left, diving down, get your cameras ready because this will be a great photo pass. I believe he's going to do another photo pass for us. He'll arc around, we'll be able to look right down into the workspace. Early in the war, this airplane did not turn out to be a very, very good performer aboard the decks of U.S. naval aircraft carriers. The pilot sat so far back and so low, they were having a great deal of difficulty maintaining visual contact with the carrier deck. To use that in an oval-shaped pattern to fly an approach that gave the pilot a better view of the landing area of the carrier deck until just before touchdown. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to turn this down. Let's listen to the bent wing bird. Now please keep a remembrance in your ear of the sound of that radial engine. We'll hear some other radials throughout the day. We will also hear some inline engines as well, and you'll want to keep an ear on those. Dan Dameo from the American Airpower Heritage Museum is going to bring it in to land. And he's going to bring it in so we can taxi in front of the crowd. While he is en route to land and in his approach, let's take a look. I think we've got a couple of more commercials we're going to run here. And Greg, if you're ready, we'll be back with more of the 2010 Joint Service Open House right after these messages.